Yo, 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 YouTube, what is up? Welcome to the BK Lounge. It is Friday, November 29th, 2019. I hope everyone out there had a happy Thanksgiving. And weird to do one of these on a Friday. Well, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos anyways, but an immediate reaction video. The Longhorns just taking care of business, knocking off Texas Tech 49-24, the final from DKR on Senior Day for Texas, and the regular season finale for the Longhorns. Obviously, a disappointing regular season coming to a close, but at least the Longhorns ended on a high note with a resounding and relatively easy, after the first quarter, victory for Texas. A lot to talk about with this one. If you have comments, if you have questions, feel free to hit the live chat. We are on YouTube Live, so appreciate all of y'all for watching this in real time. And if you're watching this video after the fact, feel free to comment below, and I will do my best to respond to your comments as soon as I can. So, kickoff at 11 a.m. the day after Thanksgiving. I'll be honest, man, I was in a little bit of a turkey coma and a little bit of a hangover type coma as well, and it looked like the Longhorns were out of the gate. Texas looked lethargic, and Texas Tech went up 14-0 very, very early. Texas got the ball first, moved it to the plus side of midfield, and then punted. And then on the Longhorns' second drive, the Longhorns moved the ball into Tech territory but turned it over on downs. Finally ran a quarterback sneak on 4th and short, but the big boys up front got pushed back. And then Texas Tech scored touchdowns on their first two offensive drives. Long touchdown drives for the Red Raiders, and just over 10 minutes into the game, it's 14-0 Texas Tech. And, man, even the most optimistic Longhorn fan out there had to be thinking, here we go. What's going to happen if Texas not only loses this game at home to Texas Tech, but what happens if Tech runs away with this? Everybody's just kind of assuming that Tom Herman's going to be back as the head coach next year. But, man, what if Tech on Senior Day comes into Austin and kills the Longhorns? I mean, what if this game got out of hand? Thankfully, those are not questions we will have to answer from that moment on. A 49-10 run for the Longhorns over the final 3+ quarters. A hell of a day for Sam Ehlinger. 432 yards of total offense for Sam. 431 yards of total offense for Sam. 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. Roschon Johnson, his first 100-yard rushing day of his Texas career. He had 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Good for him. Obviously, one of the best stories around college football this year. Roschon Johnson transitioning from quarterback to running back, right before the season, and played pretty well throughout the year. And, of course, Keontae Ingram playing very limited snaps today. We saw him early on the first couple of drives for Texas, dealing with that ankle injury he suffered against Baylor last weekend. We figured it would be a heavy dose of Roschon Johnson, and Rojo came to play. So happy for him. He looked really good. He was running hard, and he was rewarded with those 3 touchdowns. Good to see Danny Young as well. Only 5 carries for the junior tailback coming into this game. And he had 8 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown as well. Danny Young kind of falling down the depth chart over the course of this year. Good to see him get some playing time as well. It's good to see Casey Thompson get some playing time as well. Even though he didn't throw a pass, it's always a good thing when you've got your backup quarterback there in the game in the final minutes. And it's nice to see the Longhorns not play down to their competition for once. I mean, that has been a staple of the Tom Herman era, and not just the Tom Herman era, really going back for the last decade for this football program. They just haven't been able to put teams away. Even if they get out to a big lead, they allow other teams to come back into games and make things way too tough and tight down the stretch. That did not happen today. Hell, Texas Tech last year, a good example. In Lubbock, Texas up 17 early in the fourth quarter, and they allowed Tech to come all the way back to tie the football game before the Longhorns finally scored in the final 30 seconds to get a victory in Lubbock. Didn't have any of that comeback in the fourth quarter today. The Texas defense, they were really bad early on, but they tightened some things up. Jet Duffy was far from great for Texas Tech, even though he threw for nearly 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. But, man, 58 pass attempts for the Texas Tech quarterback. That is absolutely insane. Obviously, still some issues with this Longhorn defense, some coverage busts, some missed tackles, more injuries on that side of the football. Caden Stearns got hurt twice. Jeffrey McCulloch got hurt twice. I think he came back into the game after both of those injuries. A couple of standout performances. How could I not mention Devin Duvernay? I can't believe I've gone this long without bringing him up. 6 catches for 199 yards and a touchdown for Duvernay. That's an average of 33 per catch. Over 100 receptions on the season. He's the first Big 12 wide receiver to do that since Kevin White at West Virginia, I believe 3 years ago. Does that sound right? 3 years ago? Well, White hasn't really done anything in the pros, so I kind of forget when he was drafted. But hell of a day for Devin Duvernay. 75-yard touchdown, obviously the big one. Proving the Biletnikoff folks wrong once again. It's absurd that he wasn't even a semifinalist for the best wide receiver in college football award. He balled out today. Far and away his best day of, well, I shouldn't even say far and away his best day of the year, but he was remarkable today for the Longhorns. Jake Smith caught a touchdown, which was pretty cool to see. Haven't seen a whole lot of Jake Smith since the Oklahoma State game way back in October. Malcolm Epps, a couple of catches as well. And Texas, the vertical passing game was working. It hasn't been there for the last, month and a half for the Longhorns. I mean, we've talked about it on this channel. We've talked about it on all the radio shows here on the Horn in Austin. Every Longhorn fan, every college football fan has talked about the disappearance of the Texas offense in the month of November. Things got back on track today. 49 points, 610 total yards of offense for the Longhorns, 50% on third down, no turnovers. It was just a great offensive performance by Texas. And, man, I don't know if the Longhorns really did anything that different. I think they took a few more vertical shots, which you like to see, but I think a lot of the Longhorns' success on that side of the football has to do with going up against Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech, not a very good defense. They are better this year than they have been in years past under Cliff Kingsbury, but they're so banged up. And it was announced right before kickoff that their all-conference caliber linebacker, Jordan Brooks, wasn't going to play. That dude's such a difference maker for that football team. He was out. They had some guys banged up in the secondary. They had dudes. I mean, my God, how many injury timeouts were there today? Guys on both teams. I know the TV broadcasters were talking about it ad nauseum. So many injury stoppages today. So I don't want to take anything away from what Texas did offensively, but you're going up against a now 4-8 Texas Tech football team that was 9th or 10th in just about every major defensive statistical category in the Big 12. That's a good team to have a bounce-back offensive performance against if you are Texas. It was nice to see Sam play well, though. Sam has struggled a little bit as of late. Everyone offensively has struggled as of late. And the offense as a whole got it done after the very, very slow start. But even though Texas didn't score on its first couple of possessions, they were moving the ball. They got it into Tech territory on both of those first two possessions, just couldn't come away with points. And then gradually, just as the game progressed, Sam got into a rhythm. The rushing game really picked up. 262 rushing yards for Texas as a team. They averaged 5.5 yards per carry. Those numbers are going to win you a lot of football games. And a really impressive stat, and something that really shows why the score is what it was. Texas was 5 of 5 in the red zone. 5 touchdowns on 5 red zone appearances. There's been some red zone struggles for this team over the past couple of weeks, especially in the month of November. They found a way to reverse those today. So love to see that. Texas finishes the year 7-5. Once again, very disappointing. The conversations about the coaching staff are still fair, even though this was a nice, dominant victory over Texas Tech. Look, Tom Herman's going to be back next year. I think everybody knows that. But now the question becomes, what's going to happen to the assistants, the coordinators, the position coaches? There was already a report earlier this week that Larry Fedora, who's an offensive analyst for this football program, he's on his way out after just 1 year. I think that was expected. I've got an inside source on that. I mean, that was expected to be a 1-year deal. Larry Fedora's likely going to get back into the coaching realm, whether it's as an offensive coordinator or as a head coach, we will see. That was a 1-year deal from the start, so I don't know if you can really call that attrition with the Texas coaching staff. But obviously, position coaches, whether or not Todd Orlando is going to be back as the defensive coordinator, whether or not Tim Beck's going to be back as the offensive coordinator, it bears mentioning that there's only 2 assistant coaches that are under contract beyond this year for Texas. That is Todd Orlando and Herb Hand, the offensive line coach. So Tom Herman doesn't have to fire a whole lot of people to make a major overhaul to his coaching staff, right? He can just let guys go, not re-sign guys, let them walk, and bring in a completely new coaching staff if he wants. We will wait and see. But there's all sorts of reports of likely changes coming to the coaching staff. They seem pretty imminent, and once again, how can they not be after this disappointing 7-5 season for Texas? Nice to end on a high note. Good for the seniors. There's not a whole lot in this senior class, but I'm glad the guys rallied and play well. Once again, when this game was 14-0, I was not feeling good. I don't think anybody was feeling good. The stadium was silent. It was an ugly start for Texas, and I think folks had reason to believe it was going to just be more of the same from what we've seen from this team over the past couple of weeks. Glad they were able to get one for the seniors. But yeah, now I said it a bunch, and I'll keep saying it. Tom Herman's legacy is going to be defined by this offseason. Now, I know Texas has a bowl game. We're going to wait and see what that is. Could be the Texas Bowl down in Houston. Could be the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Maybe the Camping World Bowl in Orlando. Very slim shot. It's the Alamo Bowl. I highly, highly doubt that for Texas. But obviously a disappointment for this year. But whether or not coaching changes come between now and the bowl game or after the bowl game, we will wait and see. I would guess it will be after the bowl game when actual decisions are made. But maybe we'll start to hear some reports of guys who are on their way out over the coming days and weeks here in Austin. All right, let's check some of the comments. The live chat is open. Appreciate y'all. Happy Thanksgiving, Chris and Josh. Thank you. And Grant, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to all of y'all. Hopefully you guys got some time off of work, got to enjoy some time with friends and family, and got some turkey, man. I went down home to Galveston for Thanksgiving last night. Quick day trip, but man, I loaded up. And I brought a ton of leftovers home. That's the beautiful thing about going back to the parents' place for Thanksgiving. My next 2 weeks of meals are going to be turkey and stuffing and all kinds of stuff, man. I love it. So hopefully you guys had a very happy Thanksgiving, and it's kind of cool. I still got the whole weekend in front of us. Hopefully you guys get some more time to spend with loved ones or spend with yourself over the holiday season. Let's see. Grant says the Horns shot themselves in the foot at the beginning of the game. Nice win. Good to see them prevail. Yeah, I mean, definitely. More of the same for Texas, especially on offense. They moved the ball into Tech territory on both of those drives, but dumb penalties, turnover on downs. They get in their own way too often. And then defensively, I mean, it couldn't have been a worse start for Texas. Oh, my God. I thought Todd Orlando was going to get fired mid-game with the way Texas started out defensively. I mean, Tech had no problem moving the ball down the field. They did end up with 470 total yards of offense, which is a lot, but you know, total offense not nearly important in 2019. Holding Texas Tech to 24 points, you'll take that. And look, this Texas defense over the last 4 weeks, they haven't allowed an opponent to score more than 24 points, right? I mean, Tech had 24 today. Baylor had 24 last week. Iowa State had 23. Kansas State had 24. And this Texas defense over the last month of the season, yeah, still a lot of missed tackles. Yeah, some blown coverages, some missed assignments. But once they got healthy, they weren't allowing a whole lot of points, which in this conference, if you're holding teams below 25 points, you should be winning just about every game. Obviously, the problem was the offense over the final month of the year for Texas. So I was glad to see the offense have a good performance to end the regular season. But, man, I'll tell you what, Todd Orlando might have messed around and saved his job. Might have. Now, I know that probably ticks a lot of you Longhorn fans off, but he's still got one more year on his contract. And, you know, Tom Herman wants alignment. He wants continuity. He wants stability among his coaching staff. I know there's still some glaring problems, and I'm not sure Todd Orlando is the right guy to run this defense moving forward. But, man, over the last month of the season, this Texas defense stepped up and played a whole hell of a lot better. Were they great? No. But were they a lot better than what they were in the first 2 months of the season? No doubt about that. Roschon Johnson, 3 touchdowns. Absolutely. That was awesome to see. Happy for him. Probably the best story for this Texas football team and one of the better stories of the college football year. Roschon Johnson transitioning from quarterback to running back. He's had a lot of good games this year, and I've been preaching that I wish he would get the ball a little bit more. Obviously, Keontae Ingram playing a very limited number of snaps today gave Johnson the chance to be the bell cow in the backfield for the Horns, and he delivered 3 touchdowns for him. That was pretty cool to see. Josh says, bring in an OC and let Beck coach the quarterbacks only. I'm on board with bringing in an offensive coordinator. If you do that, you're probably losing Tim Beck. I don't think he's going to stick around just to coach the quarterbacks. And, Sam Ehlinger really struggled this year against some of the better defenses in the Big 12 Conference. Now, I think the majority of that problem has to do with the coaching staff and the lack of offensive game planning by Tom Herman and Tim Beck. But if you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, very slim chance Tim Beck's going to stick around. He's probably going to go take an offensive coordinator job somewhere else. He's got enough skins on the wall to get a better job than just being the quarterback's coach. I'm not sure he's going to take that demotion here at UT. Bruce Wayne, nice, says Sam finally looked like he was playing loose and having a little more faith in his receivers. Also, heck of a job by Roschon. Yeah, Sam looked great today. 431 yards of offense, 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He was cool, calm, and collected. Only one bad decision. I guess it wasn't a decision, right? It was that trick play. Sam Ehlinger was lined up as a wide receiver, and they sort of ran a receiver reverse pass. He had Roschon Johnson wide open. Would have been a touchdown. Sam just never threw the ball for some reason. Ended up throwing it away. But on the very next play, Sam Ehlinger, a perfect throw to Jake Smith in the corner of the end zone. So his one big mistake today, he made up for it on the very next play. And once again, I don't know if the play calling was that different for Texas today. I just think Texas Tech is that bad defensively. And they're incredibly banged up, too. You got to mention that. I mean, Texas Tech has played a lot better defensively this year, but no Jordan Brooks. They were without a couple of defensive backs as well. They lost guys throughout the course of the game. It helps. Once again, if your offense is trying to get out of a little bit of a funk going up against Texas Tech, if you followed this conference for the last decade and a half, that's generally a good thing. CB says it looked like the team quit on Herman and then fought and dominated. Yeah, I mean, I got to do the post-game show here in Austin on the Horn in a couple of minutes. And, if Texas lost this football game, if they continued to look bad like they did out of the gate today, that would have been the number one storyline. And we've kind of been talking about that over the last week, whether or not this team has quit on Tom Herman, whether or not they are bought into the message that Tom Herman is preaching. It almost looked like there was some give up last week against Baylor. I know they had that touchdown with 1 second left, but I'm not really counting that. In the second half up in Waco, it kind of looked like Texas gave up a little bit. And when they went down 14-0 early on, I was like, man, I don't know what to do here. I mean, if they're just not going to show up on senior day on the final game of the season against kind of a rival in Texas Tech, I don't know what to make of Tom Herman. I don't know if he's the right guy for this Texas football team moving forward. But after that sluggish start, the Longhorns did come back and dominate, which was pretty cool to see. Where's this offense been for a month and a half? Once again, I mean, Sam looked great today. But, man, you're playing the worst defense you've played since Kansas. And this offense put up 50 against Kansas, and they put up 49 today against Texas Tech. The problem with Texas this year, they couldn't offense well against good defenses. And this was one of the better defensive years in the Big 12 Conference. I know that kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but Oklahoma's defense much improved. Iowa State had a really good defense. Baylor's defense is legit. And Texas going up against some of the best defenses in this league, they couldn't get the job done. They played well against bad defenses, but against the good defenses in this league, it wasn't great. So, I don't want to take anything away from what the offense did today. It was a hell of a performance, but, man, I think a lot of that has to do with Texas Tech. We might have to wait until next year to see Texas go up against a good defense. Obviously, depends on who the bowl game's going to be, but when you're 7-5, you're not going to get a super stout defense more than likely in your bowl game. Refs were horrible. How were the refs today? Were they horrible today? I don't know. I mean, Texas did have a lot of penalties, which has been a problem all year. The blindside block on, on Washington, a little bit of a questionable call. A couple other questionable calls. I did love the ref. I actually tweeted this out at Brad Kellner. The ref saying that was a pass. He stopped play, he turned on his microphone, and he just said that was a pass. Like I have no idea what happened there. I have no idea why that happened, but that's Big 12 officiating at its finest right there. Marquez Bimich, got to give some love for him. Thanks, Bruce, for that. Fumble forced, fumble recovery. He was all over the field for Texas today. That was pretty cool to see. The Texas defensive line did pretty well, especially as the game progressed. Kenyatta Watson made a big play in the secondary. Good to see the true freshman get it done. And yeah, the secondary gave up a lot of yards and once again a sluggish start. But considering they were playing without their top two corners in Jalen Green and Anthony Cook, considering Caden Stearns missed a lot of time, they ended up playing okay. Sean Jamison got burned a couple times. Chris Brown, I don't want to call him a dirty player or anything, but man, that guy just throws his body everywhere. He was flagged once, almost flagged twice today. He's a fun player, but man, got to be careful there. But they played a lot better as the game progressed. A lot of young guys stepped up and played well. The previous play was a pass. Yes, thank you. That was the exact quote from Cooper Castleberry in his final regular season game as a Big 12 ref. I think 42 years as a college football ref. That's cool. Although those guys are compensated pretty well, I think. So good for Cooper Castleberry. He got a lot of airtime today, and most refs who have called Texas games this year have got plenty of airtime. So, all right, guys, I'm about to dip out. Got to go to the I don't know why I said it like that. Got to go to the station to do the post-game show, the Horn or hornfm.com. If you want to hear that, myself and Kevin Dunn will recap this one. We'll take calls and texts as well. And once again, the next step for the Longhorns is awaiting the bowl destination, whether it's in Houston at the Texas Bowl for the third time in 5 years, whether it's in Memphis on December 31st. How about New Year's in Memphis? Oh, boy. Or Orlando for the Camping World Bowl. Maybe the Alamo Bowl, but I'll put that at like 2%. It's probably one of those other three bowls that I just mentioned. But a win today for Texas, I think, prevents the Longhorns from going to the Cheez-It Bowl, which, yeah, that's a real thing in Phoenix, Arizona. I was almost hoping the Longhorns would go there just for the irony and let kind of be more salt in the wound. But obviously happy they got the win today. They will not have a losing season, which you haven't been able to say that every year in the past decade here in Austin. So, all right, guys, thanks as always for the love. Always appreciate it. I got to get back into the YouTube grind. I've been slacking a little bit. I apologize for that. We'll do a couple more of these this week. I'll have a little bit more time now that the regular season's coming to an end. We'll do some football videos, some basketball videos as well. But always appreciate the love, the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you would be so kind. And go to the post-game show, hornfm.com or the Horn. Kevin Dunn and I will be on there in a few minutes. So thanks as always, guys. Appreciate the love. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And enjoy the holiday weekend and enjoy the football. Man, there's already been some great football today. Virginia finally beating Virginia Tech. You've got more rivalry games tonight and through the weekend. It is an awesome time to be a football fan, maybe unless you root for the Dallas Cowboys like I do. All right, guys. Much love. Y'all have a good one.